Welcome to episode 7 of the Dadger, where sports, Badgers, and parenthood collide. Today we're joined by former Wisconsin wide receiver and team captain Luke Swan. From his small town roots in Fenimore to earning his spot as a standout in Camp Randall, Luke's journey is a definition of grit. We talk about overcoming injury, the pressure of chasing the NFL dream, and life now as a father and leader. Thanks for joining us, Luke.
It's great to be here, Adam.
You so you grew up, like I said, you grew up in Fenimore, and you actually have a website still up. You say in your website that you grew up loving anything and everything to do with sports. Where do you think that love for sports came from at such an early age?
Yeah, I think if I trace it back, it has to go back to my dad. He just had a passion for his kids, I think, first of all, and then he loved basketball and really anything to do with the ball. So from the moment that I could hold a ball all the way up, we were always doing something with the ball, and then had three brothers. And so it became a ruckus fun show where balls were encouraged in the house. And maybe even it goes back even further where he grew up. Like some parents don't allow balls in the house. And my grandma had four boys, and they encouraged them to dribble a basketball around, see how fast you can go around. And even took bolts and like bolted down like the actual like lamps and things so many times. So maybe I can trace it back even all the way back even further in my lineage. But no, I gained a love for sport. Like it was something that drew me in. It was something that I uh, enjoyed. And you mentioned just like grit and competition. And that was something that just developed out of a love for the game. Like I love to compete. And I think that's one thing that I learned over time is there's different ways to compete. One is a way to compete where like you need to win at all costs. And it's rooted where like your identity is in your sport. And then there's a competition that I think is a healthier way. It's like you compete because you love the game. And like the grit and the identity that comes out of that is different. And so I think that was a part of my journey. We can talk more about that in
Yep.
my journey. But yeah, I mean, grew up playing all the sports, basketball, baseball, and actually didn't even start playing football until I was a freshman in high school, just because Fenimore didn't have football until that point in time.
So your dad, you said your dad was a big basketball guy. So you mentioned you were basketball, track, and football. So you're two-time all conference in basketball, two-time conference long jump champion, two-time all state, all conference, all area selection. Safe to say you were successful in all your sports. Was football always your favorite sport or most looked forward sport?
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't, not because I don't think I wouldn't have liked it that young. Like we played football in the backyard, but I just hadn't discovered it because I didn't have the opportunity for that. And so basketball was my dad's sport, and so that was my first love. And I think there was the moment of being young and looking up to the Michael Jordans of the world and saying like I'm gonna be the next Michael Jordan, and having like no concept of what that meant at all. And then you start to get a little bit older and you realize that there's a lot of really good athletes around the country, even in your area. And so like, yes, I was successful within kind of the area that I had, but I started to go to AAU things and see camps and see guys that were really, truly elite. And even had like, I mean, all of those things that I did in high school, like there was great competition in the Southwest Wisconsin area. And I mean, enjoyed it, loved it, played all the sports. But in honesty, like there was a period of time, like I had desire to go on and play collegiately, but I didn't even really think that was even a possibility for me.
You talk a little bit about growing up. So you have three brothers and a sister. Being the oldest sibling and playing sports, did you ever feel competition with your siblings and wanting to be the best out of all of them?
Oh, for sure. Definitely. It was, I mean, to this day, whenever we get together, everything becomes a competition. Like, and for the love of competition, like healthy fun competition. I think one of the elements of it was I was 2.5 years older than the next brother. And then like there's 10-year gap between me and the youngest brother. And so we competed everything, but like, in honesty, like I was the oldest, and so was able to be successful most of the time. So I think that, I mean, maybe in some ways shaped me, but I think it was starting to get competition with my friends and other guys, and going to tournaments and playing in leagues and all of those things that just started to shape where I was like, okay, I got to rise my level. And I think that's just part of the journey, was learning to rise to the level to compete with that group.
You talked a little bit about just starting football only in your freshman year. Your freshman year, you played quarterback before switching to wide receiver your sophomore year. Even before playing, did you have an idea that you wanted to be like some sort of skilled position, or did you have a position that you really wanted to play going in your freshman year?
Yeah, it was honestly like more by necessity within that time. So Fenimore, we ran the veer option, and so uh, typically like the better athlete is going to be the one that has his ball in the hands and running kind of like the show on the offense there. So uh, yeah, we had a coach that ran that. His son was one of my best friends, was a year younger, and so, I mean, I went to a quarterback camp in Jeff Trickey quarterback camp in the summer, learned how to do some quarterback things, and then stepped in and played quarterback. So I would say I wasn't a natural, like that wasn't like my natural position. Played it, did it. But I mean, it's a grace that even though sad that they left, we brought in another coordinator, head coach, and we ran a more pro style, a little bit more opened up offense. And so I started out at quarterback my sophomore year and transitioned into playing receiver, just because that was where the opportunity was to go and be more of an athlete within it. And had a quarterback in Brent Nelson that, I mean, went on, played at Platteville, was prolific career there, played and was all state, and threw the ball really well. So I think it all worked out really well. I don't know if he would have been a great veer quarterback, but he was awesome within the offense that we had. And then honestly, like that was the thing that, I mean, set me off on trajectory, where I caught a bunch of balls my junior year, and had opportunities to go to some camps in Wisconsin that enabled me to go. So it was right place, right time, right scenario for all of those things. And I mean, someone doesn't move away, or like I don't make that switch, like we might not be talking right now at all. Like so much of this
Right.
is just right scenario, and then taking advantages of those scenarios.
You ended up being a captain in both football and basketball teams in high school, and then actually got to be a captain your final year at Wisconsin. We'll dive a little bit into Wisconsin years a little bit later, but what qualities do you think made you a leader and named captain in multiple sports?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think if anyone knows me, I wouldn't be maybe what you would say is prototypical, like really vocal leader, captain of teams, and so I'm not somebody that's going to be out in front and like really in your face. But I think just as I reflect back around how I wanted to carry myself, was I want to do everything the right way. Um, I wanted to do everything could do to compete at a really high level, and just take care of all of the right things with the people around me, relationally. And so I think that combination of things was the things that I was quietly myself in those, and then rose to the occasion, to the right levels, to speak up and to lead in those ways. But so much of leadership is not about the verbal out in front. There's a part of that. There's a time and place for that, but it's the chemistry within a football team, within an organization, the way that you're drawn together as a group, and you get the most out of everyone. And having leaders that raise the bar for everyone by the way that they conduct themselves, but then they also call up. And this doesn't have to be in big verbal ways, but drawing people in to calling up their level. Um, I think those are the things that make great leaders, and that happens in the weight room. That happens on the field. That happens in the locker room, where those are subtle interactions, and all of those things add up to, I think, building, like, it's a big math equation for what a successful team is.
Yeah,
Like, you have to have the right
absolutely.
talent You have to have the right coaching. You have to have the right scheme that matches all of these things. But there's this intangible thing under all of those things that makes that group like come together and be a cohesive group. And I think that's where, and was even surprised as a Wisconsin player to be named a captain, because that wasn't necessarily my out in front role, but like really honored to be named that and to be able to step in and lead in that role.
Senior year, did you have offers from other schools? I think your final stats when it was all said and done through your high school career, I think you ended up with like 2,200, over 2,200 receiving yards. I saw. So did you have other schools looking at you? And if you did like what went through the process of choosing to walk on in Wisconsin?
Yeah, it definitely was a journey. I wasn't a like D1 high profile athlete coming from a small town and being athletic enough for Division 1, but not being like standout in that way. Like for sure, like the Big Ten schools weren't beating down the door, but I did have opportunities for scholarships into some Division 2 and 1AA
Yeah.
North Dakota schools. And I really did seriously consider those. But there was something about, I mean, being able to step into Camp Randall and go to a camp there and see that stadium, be an hour and 15 minutes away from that, be a Badger fan growing up,
Yep.
and knowing that it's a long shot to go and make it, but wanting to step up and take that opportunity. So got the opportunity. Coach Henry Mason, worked with him for I don't know how long, like a 3-day camp at Wisconsin, and got to be coached by him for those 3 days. He got to see how it works, came back every day, and then got the opportunity at that camp to be offered a walk on spot and to join the team. So yeah, definitely something considered other, and I think that path would have been great in different ways, but definitely don't regret in any way taking that chance and stepping into Wisconsin.
I've talked about it with other small town guys on here like Brady Ewing, but I love getting everybody's perspective because everyone's journey, everybody's perspective is different. What was it like for you transitioning from a small town, like kind of small town life to Madison?
Yeah. I mean, I loved my growing up. Like, we didn't have a stoplight for 30 miles in all directions. Like,
Yep.
we lived on 100 acres and, like, you knew everyone. And I loved that. But, I mean, it was a new opportunity, new challenge to step into. And so, yes, there was transition, but that's part of life. And I think it's part of, like, shaping who you are, is to be able to step into different environments, be around different people. And so, yeah, the first 2 years were hard. Just on the football side, on the social school, everybody transitions into college. So yeah, there was transition. Like, I mean, there were periods that it was like, is this the right thing? Like, should I be here? Should I go play somewhere else?
Yeah.
But there was something that I saw inside of myself, and even got spoken out by some of the coaches of saying like, hey, you can make it here. And like, it was still something I needed to work at and develop. I wasn't ready to play for sure in my first 2 years, and was able to develop in. But yeah, love Madison. We lived there for 12 years, and yeah, see that as a ton of sweet memories.
You talked a little bit about just now the coaches. So when you got to UW, was there a moment or a small win when you thought, okay, I belong here. I can run with these guys.
Hmm. Yeah. So one individual, you mentioned Brady, like, and there's a ton of walk-on tradition that is a part of Wisconsin that I feel honored to be a part of. Honestly, there's so much storied history that's there, and so I know Brady is referenced and like incredible guy, but like he was younger than I, so he looked up to me, and which is
Yeah.
a weird thing to see. Like, I see him as like more of a friend and a brother than like in that way, so that feels weird. But Jimmy Leonard was that guy for me, where he
Okay.
was a few years down the road, and it was like I remember coming into the locker room on a visit at a game and just seeing him and just seeing the intensity in his eyes and being like, oh, like this guy's got a different level about him. And so he was that guy for me. And I think I can remember distinctly, and I don't know why I remember this, but I distinctly remember my freshman year in camp, going up one on one against Jimmy in some regard, and went up and went over the top of him and like made a great play. And that wasn't like the welcome to, because there's plenty of plays that I did not make that play, but it was like there were moments that that it was like, okay, I can come and I can compete here, and I can be at this level. It's going to take me, all of me. It's going to take me developing my body, understanding this game, and doing all of the right things to do it. But there were moments like that was like, all right, I'm here, I belong. Let's go do this.
Right, and you probably need those little moments, those little wins to keep pushing you, like keep it's going to make me work even harder type of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I think the fun part of it was like, yeah, you weren't playing, but the atmosphere of being around elite athletes and feeling like you need to raise your own level, but then being in the environment of the coaches that, I mean, had demanded so much of you, in great ways, sometimes in really challenging ways. But then also being in the environment of Wisconsin Camp Randall Stadium and those game days, and just the excitement that was around the program, like all of those things together, um, gave you opportunity to like look around and be like, wow, this is special. Like there's something that's really special here, and there's challenge that is here, and maybe I make it, maybe I don't. As far as like quote unquote making it, by playing or whatever that is. Uh, but there was enough there that, I mean, for sure kept me there and saying like, yeah, I want to invest and I want to be here and take a shot at this.
Yeah, so uh were you were redshirted your first two seasons, correct?
Yeah, so I didn't play my first year. You redshirt 1 year, and then just the second year, I was a freshman but didn't play at
Okay,
all. And
okay.
then my third season, I played some. We still had a really good receiving core, but it was more of a blocking role and just getting in and being a backup if something went down. So, which was great. Like I got to travel. I got to, I mean, experience what it was to prepare, and those things definitely just set me up to be able to have time. Like you look at some NFL quarterbacks and like they get thrown into the limelight and then they're ruined for the whole time. And so, I mean, for me, it was great preparation for those 3 years so that when my time was called, those last two, like I was able to step up and be able to be a part of really honestly like some really great teams. Like my junior year, we went 12-1, and like we lost to Michigan, who lost to Ohio State. It was the national
Yep.
championship. So like it was like, man, we were right there and was a part of a great team.
Those 3 years, was there an under the radar teammate that had maybe impact on your development, but
Hmm.
maybe never got the spotlight or shine they deserved?
Hmm. Man, there was guys maybe on the opposite side um, that did get spotlight. So I think like there were guys in the receiving room that I looked up to, with Lee Evans when I first walked in. I think Jonathan Orr, Scott Starks, and just the way that they competed, but competed in a way that I really respected. And I mean, the swagger of Brandon Williams and looking up to the way that he just competed, in his personality. I think one individual that Badger fans will know is Chris Maragos, who was actually a year younger than me, but ended up transferring in. We became roommates and really great friends, and he had a ton of impact on me, just in different ways, from uh, just a friendship, our spiritual journey, like all of those things. Like he's a close friend, so he had a huge impact. But I guess maybe to go back to the original question, there was a whole group of walk-ons that, and honestly we had a great walk-on group. There were quite a few guys that played, didn't maybe play like huge prominent roles, but I think of like the Ben Stricklands of the world, where like I got to live in a house with him and five other guys, and he he embodied what it was to be like a walk-on, and like undersized corner. um, I mean, played special teams, and he contributed quite a bit. I don't want to take away from what Ben did, at all, but I think there's a lot of guys that are in that category that just raised the level of the program overall. that are
Yeah.
like the unsung portion of it, where they come to work and maybe they contribute on special teams, maybe they don't contribute at all, but during the week they're the scout team, and they are, and that was my role for 3 years, where I was the guy that was coming in and pushing the starters and
Yep.
having them say, "Hey, slow down, like don't do that. Like I'm tired." It's like, no, like you need to get ready for the game on Saturday, and I'm going to push your level.
Right.
That was some of the mindset that I felt was just instilled in Wisconsin football overall. It's just this lunch pail mentality. Like we're going to come to work, and I mean, you just get brought into that culture and have a walk-on tradition. And I think that's the life has been the lifeblood of what Wisconsin football has been. Like, yes, we have our recruits from out of state that they are the talent for sure. There's our in-state studs that are our talent, but there's an undercurrent of guys that probably could have gone on and played different places. Uh, and I think it's a grace of what Wisconsin football as a whole is. There's Division 3 and there's Division 1. That's it. There's no Division 2. There's some in Minnesota. But
Yeah.
those guys that are like the 2 and 1 AA's, they come to Wisconsin and then they develop and then they play.
Yep.
So I think you just look at that whole walk-on tradition, and that is so much of what had been and has been successful for Wisconsin. And now we're entering a completely different era
Yeah.
of NIL, and who knows if walk-ons will even be a thing any longer, which is a little bit sad in some ways to a guy that's part of that proud tradition.
Yeah, I mean that's been Wisconsin's bread and butter. I talked a little bit to actually he was in your recruiting class, Justin Ostrowski.
Oh yeah.
I talked to him a little bit about it, but so back to you here. So fast forward to 2006, you become a starter. You finish the year as a team's third leading wide receiver with almost 600 yards, but you're only getting like 3 to 4 targets a game. Some of those games you absolutely went off for, like for example, Iowa. You had I think 4 catches for like 115 yards or something like that. With with limited targets, did you feel like you had to make every route and every catch count that much more?
I mean, I think that was just the standard of being at Wisconsin, was every single rep mattered. And I think I understood and was bought into the game plan. Like that was Wisconsin football is we're going to have a punishing run game, and we're going to run play action pass and pass on third downs when we need to. And so you understand your role within that, and even like the opportunity that comes with that, because you look at a spread offense or an offense that is more spread out, and they're going to be more dunk and dime, and you're going to have to work a lot harder within those zones for that. So the opportunities that I had was we had so many guys down in the box trying to stop the run and had people flowing so much that there was so much green space that was out there for receivers.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would love to probably have gotten thrown the ball a little bit more, but like we won 12 games that year,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
was a part of something really special. And so, yeah, I got the opportunities I got, and I needed to take advantage of them, not for myself, but because like those were important plays within the game plan that we needed to go and make those plays against Iowa, and go into Kinnick and win that game. And yeah, there's moments that you go to your coordinator and say like, "Hey, this guy is flowing," and I remember this really well. There's a touchdown right before the half against Iowa, that there was a safety that was biting down and flowing. And I went to offensive coordinator Paul Chris at that time, my Coach Mason. I said, "Hey, this guy's flowing. I can make this move." And we made an adjustment and were able to go and make a touchdown right before the half. So those are the fun moments that you're a part of, kind of, I would say, the game plan in some way, or like seeing it and being able to bring it to life on the field.
Did you have a favorite route?
Hmm. Uh, I, I had a lot of favorite routes. I think
The
the,
ones that got you the balls.
the three that came to mind are like the routes that I ran the best. Was what we call a stem corner 7 route.
Yep.
So I played the boundary receiver which is to the short side of the field, the X position. And so you would stem in, give yourself some space, go vertical, and then do a corner to the side. And so I think that was one of the routes that I ran the best, and you could get chunk plays within it. There's also a route we called sword or a speed dig in that kind of played off of that a little bit. That you hit it fourth outside step at 10 yards, and then you rolled in. But I think maybe the most fun route that gained some chunk plays, and you mentioned Iowa. I made a catch on this play where we had a stack set to the field, so to the wide side of the field, and the inside receiver would run a post route and control the safety, and then many times they would play cloud coverage or cover two coverage where the corner would stay like tighter. And so I would run a corner route, and the corner would feel like, okay, I got this covered, and then turn it into a corner and up or a corner and go. And so the safety would be controlled. And I mean, it was nothing but green grass out there. And yeah, I got hawked. It was I won't say what happened. And it didn't end up getting a touchdown, but probably should have at that point.
I watched some highlights, so I know exactly what you're talking about. So.
All right.
2007, you start the season with with an 8 reception, 170-yard game.
Hmm.
After that first game, did you think, okay, like this is my year, this is the culmination of all the hard work that I put in over the years?
Yeah, I mean, definitely started out the year with a bang, and I think it was indicative of just like a gradual rise in like trust with quarterback as well as coordinator within it, and then circumstantially, like game plan wise, it worked out for me to have some opportunities on that front against, was it Washington or Washington State? I forget exactly.
Washington State,
Washington State. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, definitely setting up for a huge year, and I think similar to my high school to college, like I didn't know if the next level was a possibility. Um, College to or high school to college. I think similarly, like you dream of playing in the NFL, but like leading into that year, like that became more of a realistic focus, and like that felt like it was like, okay, like we're starting to set out on a trajectory, and having a game like that and kind of games towards the beginning of the season that head in that direction. So yeah, I mean, yeah, exciting start to that season, and yeah, I think. Was hungry for more of the same wins that we had the last year, and felt like our team was on that path, on that trajectory again.
So that season, you started out hot like that, but I mean, you had games where you're still pushing 100 yards receiving almost every single game. You get to the Illinois game, ended up getting injured, and it was a pretty serious injury, correct? Like it was like
Yeah.
as the research I did was basically your hamstring basically tore away from the bone, correct? Like it required surgery.
Yeah, they called it an avulsion fracture, where basically like the muscles that were attached to the bone got pulled completely off, and
Yep.
some of the bone came with it. So all four of the hamstring muscles on the back were halfway down my leg. I just got stretched out like kind of like a hurdler, and somebody hit me from behind, and so it just ripped off. So yeah, I mean, um, still have a hard time watching that play to this day.
It's one of those on like one of the injuries that you watch on TV that you instantly know like that was a bad injury. Like
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
um
go ahead.
how difficult was that going from about to have what looked like a absolute breakout season your senior year to now having to go into surgery and wait for rehab and kind of the unknown of that?
Yeah, I think you go through all of the normal emotions of just like a little bit denial, and then frustration, sadness that comes with that. But I think like part of my journey that I haven't talked about yet is just um, like just my faith journey and how that impacted the way that I engaged that event. So kind of stepping back just a little bit, I grew up in a home that had strong faith, and I did as well. Like that was an important part of my life. But I think one of the things that happened as I went to the university and stepped into the football program is slowly like football started to become more of my identity. And my faith just kind of became a separate thing. Um, and I think one thing that can happen in moments like that, where you are headed on a certain trajectory and you suddenly get that thing taken away, it can devastate you if that is fully who you are. Of like, I am Luke Swan, Wisconsin
Mm-hmm.
Badger.
Yep.
And there was a process that I went through and got involved with a group called Athletes in Action, which is a Christian sports ministry of helping athletes to who want to pursue a faith, but like, how does that work and integrate with how you think about things like sport or other things in your life? Like, how do you integrate those things together? How do you live authentically within that? So I went through a process of really putting sport into at least the perspective that I think was important for me, where faith was the number one thing in my life, and all of those other things kind of came um, outflowing from that, and kind of transitioned the way that I thought about sport from something that was about me to understanding it through the lens of God as creator and him creating me and giving me a unique talent and opportunity to go and play sport and to honor that gift and also to glorify him through the way that I competed, played, and actually like learning how to raise my level even in that rather than like trying to have my motivation be up and down because it's about me, but be something about something bigger than me. So I think I give all of that precursor to say, uh, yes, that moment was a challenging moment for me, but I think it was actually a defining and refining moment for me as well. Of saying, is the things that I believe that I worked through, are those things real? And so this was a test moment for me. This was a moment to say, like, is sport your identity, or is your identity in something different? And are you balanced in the way that you have that? And so there was emotion, don't get me wrong, within that. But it was also a time of really a lot of growth. There's a verse in the Bible that really spoke to me, is James 1, 2 through 4, that says, "Consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, for you know the testing of your faith develops perseverance. And perseverance must finish its work so you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." And so the thing that resonated with me within that is it sounds so weird to say, consider it pure joy when you face trials. But it's not the happy joy, but it's like, hey, I'm going through something and I know off of the back end of it, I'm going to be different and I'm going to be more mature, complete, and different through that. And so I think there was a trajectory that I wanted to go and do the NFL thing and I wanted to continue on. And that path wasn't the path for me to do long term. Like, I did the opportunity there, but that period was really solidifying in just the development of who I was as a man, and the solidification of what I believed, and walking that out in a true and genuine way. Where I did get something taken away, I got the rest of that senior year taken away, and kind of that path trajectory where I injured a second time when I was in an NFL camp, and really ultimately, like, that ended my football career. And there's still emotion that comes around that, and like the what ifs. But I look back at that period and say, like, that was a defining moment for me, in ways that have served me in the way that I approach my job, my work, my career, as a father, as a leader in the spaces that I am, to have walked those paths. And so, like, in no way is that the worst thing that's happened to anyone at all. But for me, it was a defining moment for me
Yeah.
of like, how was I going to respond to that, and how was I developed in the middle of that.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the football players I've had on football is a very physical sport, but
Yes.
pretty much all the athletes I've had on here so far have been football players, minus Paul Anier, who is a track athlete at UW. But uh, every single person has gotten injured at some point in their career, and basically had to face that moment of, what am I if I'm not an athlete?
Mm.
So it's always so cool to hear every athlete's different perspective and how they kind of attacked it, who they leaned on. Was there anybody when you were going through this that maybe you talked to and leaned on heavily, like anybody in your family, your
Oh,
dad, your mom,
oh, for
your
sure.
your siblings?
All of them were key parts of it. Like my parents are pillars in my life, and they were there and able to walk it with me, there with me. I had mentioned Chris Maragos before. We were roommates at the
Yep.
time, and so like he was literally the one that when I got home from surgery and needed to be helped around and helped to be dressed and all of the things, like he was the one that was there with me in it. And so yeah, we had some special moments, and he was a part of just speaking truth into me in that stage, and helped me to both grieve that, but then also develop through it, like see how God was working in my life with it. So yeah, I would say Chris was an anchor within that, but I had a ton of community that was around me. I mentioned athletes in action. Like there was 70 athletes that were a part of that came around, and were like they knew the backstory well, and were able to support me in kind of the journey that I was in.
So you go through rehab, and you still have a dream of trying to make the draft. Can you take us through maybe draft prep, or was it more focusing on rehab and being healthy, and if you go somewhere, you go somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, it was both rehab, but then also training. It was like, how can you do both at the same time? And
Yeah.
I mean, didn't get to go to combine, and we had pro day, and like my injury was probably one that would take a year to like feel like you're getting back to where you're like at peak. And I had 6 or 7 months, maybe even less than that. And then I think we were in training camps like 8 months after the injury. And so like I pushed it, and I pushed it hard. Like I worked hard at it, and got to camps, got opportunity as a free agent with Kansas City.
Yep.
Was there for a period of time, and great experience. Tough experience because you're not maybe quite at the top of where you wanted to be, and then was in a drill where I was trying to run past a linebacker, and he kind of pushed me in the back, and I planted, and I felt it tear again. It wasn't as bad, but it kind of tore away a little bit, and so I ended up coming back and was able to like do tryouts again. But when you have an injury designation like that after not playing, you don't get a lot of opportunities
Yeah.
after that. So yeah,
Did I see this correctly? You were on also a football kind of reality competition. Was that Michael Irving's?
that was part of the journey. I don't think any one of my classmates in high school would have designated me to be a reality television at all. But no, I did get the opportunity. So the concept was a show called Fourth and Long, where for one reason or another, uh, individuals' road to the NFL got derailed. So whether it was an injury like me, whether they went to a small school, whether they played basketball and played a little bit of football, whether they got into some trouble of some sort. So they had 6 receivers and 6 DBs that came on and were competing for a spot to go with the Dallas Cowboys, a training camp spot. And so, yeah, I got to see the backside of what making a reality TV show is like. Quite an experience. Yeah, I think the things that I'll say, like the football part, like they brought on a bunch of legends, some coaches, Bill Bates, Joe Avazano, and a bunch of players to come in and kind of run it. And the football part was real. Like we competed. Like it was a fun um, level of competition that was there, and they set that part up well. I think the reality part was, hey, let's set up this conversation. You go talk about this, try to
Yeah.
create some drama,
Yeah.
um, and then they decide what things to put in what order and how
Yeah.
much to emphasize a certain player. So, good experience. I ended up getting injured, small injury, just tweaked my groin and got cut as a result of that. But two guys went on and played. The guy who won it played with the Cowboys for a couple of years. And then, um, oh man, I'm totally blanking on the name of the other individual and embarrassed that I don't have it. But he went on to play for like 9 or 10 years. Andrew Hawkins, sorry. Yeah, he went on
Okay.
to play for like 10 years.
Through this in your entire football story arc, is there something um something you learned that maybe most people wouldn't understand unless like you described it to them, or unless they played sports? Is there something that you took away from it that you can kind of relay, I guess, to the to common folk, so to speak?
I mean, I think a little bit of what I shared before, where I think um, there's a fine line for an athlete of like going and putting everything you have into something to raise the bar to excellence to go as far as you can. And I think the thing that maybe is a slight nuance to it, but I think is really important for I think young athletes as well as people in life is like there's a way to do that where it becomes all about self, doing everything that you can to get to that next level, that has a dark side to it, that um, leaves a wake in your own personal life, but then also with the people around you, or can, and then leaves you at moments where when that gets taken away, what is there? And I think that there's this ethos within our culture that you need to be like cutthroat to go and make it, like, and to do everything you can to make it to that next level. And I think there are athletes that are the Black Mamba Kobe's of the world, the Michael Jordans, that they're just like ruthless within that. And I think we can idolize that and say like that's the way to excellence. And I'm not going to take away like that can be a path to be really successful within athletic, but the things that come off of the back end of that can be really just like damaging for yourself and for the rest of your life. And I think that there's a different way to approach it. And I think it comes from a number of sources for, I think it's learning to compete in a way that is a love of the game and having motivations that um, rise your level, but you're not subject to kind of all of the things that are the darker side of that. And so for me, that was understanding and leaning into what is the most important thing in my life. So like for my faith and understanding where my first identity is, that I'm not Luke Swan football player. I'm Luke Swan, um, as a son of God that has been created. I am all of these other things that's balanced. And out of that security, I'm able to compete in a way that is raise the level and get to the same level, but do it in a way that is much more honoring to the people that are around me, honoring to myself, and doing it in a healthy way to where
Sure.
I'm balanced within it. And you're left in a place that is living life full, rather than living life like one dimensional, towards one particular aim that is there. So I think the advice that I would have for my kids, for anyone who's a young aspiring athlete, is um, know who you are outside of sport, and compete in a way and learn to compete in a way for like the love of the game, and compete at a high level. Don't let anything be taken away from that aspect of it, but don't compete in a way that is going to be damaging to yourself and to the people around you. Like find that balance, and I think some people would look at that and say like, oh, that's soft, or like that's not aspiring to everything that you can be. But I think you can raise your level. And actually, I know you can raise your level. And I think it's a much healthier way of being an individual, but also even being a teammate and a leader and all of those other things that come along with that. Like it's a better way, in my mind. And then the fruit that comes off of the back end of that is sport is going to finish for you one day. I don't know when
Yep.
that is, whether that's at the end of your middle school, high school, college, pro. Like, there's going to be a moment in time where sports, and I think that's like the tagline of the NCAA. Like, what are you preparing for
Right.
athletes? And I think that's the other part of it is like, what's the end goal for you within sport? And it may be to get to elite levels. That's great, but that's going to stop at some point in time. So who are you becoming as a person? How are you developing skill sets? How are you developing a competitive mindset that is healthy, and a work ethic that comes with that has served me in so many ways um, to and there I am, fatherhood right now. My son is in the background doing some drumming. Um, but yeah, how does that develop you as a person? And I think that's what sport to me is an opportunity to do life on like with the volume turned up a little bit, or like fast forwarded, and allow you to experience a bunch of feedback and then be able to learn how to adjust to that. And then it serves you as you become a husband, father, someone who works, like a leader, all of those things later in life. So seeing sport as an opportunity for that. Love it, enjoy it, but be developed in it.
So it looks like you kind of eventually found your profession, your passion in marketing. First, can you help me with mine? No, I'm just kidding. uh, how did you find the passion with marketing? Past once you got past the passion for sports, there any aspects that reminded you of sports or competition for any reason?
Yeah, no, that's good. So actually, I pursued coaching for a period of time after I was done. Got the opportunity to be a graduate assistant, and really saw the years of college as a development time for me, and wanted to like invest back in to athletes. So I thought like coaching was going to be one of those things. Realized that the coaching life is really hard. Like, to have a family, like, down the road all of the time, it's getting crazier and a ton of hours. But was in that process fortunate to get my MBA as part of being a grad assistant, and kind of discovered during that time that business and marketing has a lot of the same strategic like nature of football, and being a coach, and the X's and O's of that just turned into numbers and dollar cents on especially, and even the creativity of marketing kind of aligned to like the creativity of play calling, or the
Yeah.
creativity of being out on the field. And so yeah, kind of found a space of marketing where I've developed a skill set in, and I think um, found some of those same parallels. And also, I think the other part, the companies that I've been a part of have been sports technology companies. And so the first company that I was a part of, um, main company coming out of that MBA, was a company called Huddle, which is
Yep.
basically an extension of what I was doing as a grad assistant. And so took the knowledge and understanding of that persona of a coach, and worked on the marketing side to try to share it out with more coaches around what Huddle was, film breakdown and highlights and all of the
And
things.
now it's massive. Like,
Around it was fun. I was, I don't know, employee like 70-ish or something. So it was still already established within American football, but has grown to, I think, I don't know how many. I think I left, there was like 2,000 employees that were a part of it, and all
yeah.
sports, all levels. So yeah, I think it was fun to be a part. It's been fun to be a part of the sports space. So have worked for Game Changer, which is a baseball, softball scoring app, and now currently work for Win Reality, which is also based in the baseball softball space, where you put on a headset and a VR headset, and are able to do training inside of that VR app. So it's really cool technology. And
Man,
fun
you've
to be
worked with some
part of.
massive companies. Huddle, Game Changers, like really big around here for like you can watch kids sports on or like
Yeah, live,
baseball,
live
soft.
stream.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's crazy. So we talked a little bit about it. But what does success mean to you now compared to what it meant to you when you were 21?
Yeah, I think uh, definition. evolves with maturity and understanding. I think at those moments in time where a young 21-year-old, like you're focused on the things that are in front of you. And so sports success was definitely like front and center for me. And I was learning what it looked like to live like a balanced life and what does success look like in life. And so I think as I've grown and now have a family with four kids of my own, um, like I think success has shifted and changed. Like there's definitely the typical like providing for family and making sure that the opportunities that I was given, they are not only given but like rooted in just a good understanding of what it is to be a healthy human and to grow in their faith and then go on and pass on some of the same things that my parents passed on to me. And so I think if I had to boil it back down to like what is success within my life, um, it would be and referencing back to just my faith in the biblical, like going to Jesus. He was asked like, "What's the most important thing?" And it's love God and love people. That was the essence of what was said. And so, I think success for me is to be faithful to what I feel like I've been called from a faith perspective, and faithful to God, and live in a way that honors Him and the ethic that is shared there, and the ethic that I'm called to. And I think a huge part of that is then how do you go and engage the world around you and the people around you. Um, so I think doing that in a way that is honoring life, honoring people, and investing in them to raise them up, and ultimately just be part of the giant human project where God created the heavens and the earth and put potential in the earth. And how do you go about bringing out that potential and finding my place in that? What am I called to put my hand to um, and to move forward? And then we've been given relationship, and how do we live in a way that is right relationship with everyone? And so I think there's a lot of people that say like, hey, climbing the ladder of success and reaching this and pursuing titles and a financial portion of that. And there's a way to do that in a way that's honoring. But I think just stripping it back is that portion of loving God and loving people. That's success.
You you mentioned you have four kids. Are any of them old enough to be interested in sports, or have they started playing
Yeah.
sports?
Oh yeah, we're fully into the sports life. So we just wrapped up the baseball softball season. Have three kids that are old enough right now. So 11, 9, 6, and then a two-year old. So
Okay.
yeah, we're doing baseball, basketball, football, softball, volleyball.
Are you coaching them in any of their
Oh,
sports?
for sure. Yeah. Like my dad coached me all the way through, and yeah, I want to be a part of their life and helping them to navigate sports in a way that is the healthy side that I had talked about, where they're learning how to compete, learning the lessons from sport, learning how to be excellent in things that they take on. And so I think helping them navigate, and I think those are some of the tough things within parenthood is like, what's the level you invest in that? Like, do you go
Yeah.
the football route? Do you go the local leagues? Like, how much do you do? What camps do you go to? All of those things. Those are tough questions because you want them to go and be excellent, but then also don't want to have a life balance within your own family where
Right.
eating dinner together, or you're eating on the road, you're in separate places, all of those things. So yeah, navigating all of those things and wanting to do it along with my kids in a way that helps them to even hopefully process where earlier, where like they're not going and finding their identity in sport, where I did for a period of time.
Right. Have you been to Camp Randall with any of them? And
Yeah,
if so, how did it feel? Did it feel differently to you when you were a player compared to seeing yourself now as a father and a fan?
yeah, for sure. So we did go when my son and daughter were young, when we lived in Wisconsin. and that was a really cool experience to be able to share Camp Randall with them. They kind of got it at that point in time. We live down in Texas now, and so have not made it back recently, where I think they would understand it a little bit more. But they are Badger fans. We watch the games on Saturdays, watch Badger basketball, other sports as well, follow it. So yeah, they're loving it. We've gotten into Baylor football, basketball as well down here in Waco. But Badgers will always be for sure number one, and they are raising up Badger fans for sure. And so yeah, super fun to be able to go back and to share that part of my journey with them. And yeah, I think at least when I was there was I have like a life size picture of me in like the bowels of Camp Randall. So be able to go take a picture
Nah, that's sweet.
was super fun, and like see dad in a uniform is like a weird thing for them to think about, but
Yeah.
super fun to share with them.
So I always ask two questions to end all the interviews. The first is, if your kids somehow come across this when they turn 18, what is one thing you would hope that they would take away from it?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just go back to the answer that I had shared before. The two things that I'd shared, just around the advice around how to compete and how to not be consumed by it versus how to do it in a healthy way. So I think that would be the one thing that I would love for them to take away. And then the other is just understanding the definition of what success is in life. And there's a lot of messages of what that is. But first and foremost, like to have the foundation of loving God and loving people.
And of course, I always got to end it with it being the Dadger. How do you think the team is going to do this year?
Yeah, I am so interested how college sports overall is going to continue to evolve.
Yeah.
Um, I look at our current team, and I'm like, I think I'm excited that we're going back to maybe a little bit more of our roots offensively. And I love the experimentation and trying to like take ourselves to the next level. But I think that's one lesson that's been learned is like what's the unique advantage of Badger football? And offensively, it's having identity rooted in the run game, play action pass. So I'm excited and optimistic. I think it'll be a transition back to that and continue to develop the players in the program around it. So we'll continue to support it. Look at our schedule, and even thinking about the uh, what the Big Ten has become and the teams that
Mm-hmm.
are on it, both conference and non-conference. And it's a different schedule for sure than we went through of having. It wasn't the Big Ten West at that time, but like having the traditional Big Ten teams on it
Yeah.
now, including the USCs of the world, the Oregons of the world, like teams that are really strong, and then not putting Alabama on the schedule, and it seems like we have a really difficult road. So,
Yeah.
um, I mean, I don't want to put a number on it, but like I think what I would hope for is that like we win the games we're supposed to, like which there's not a lot of those on the schedule of like the odds makers of what they would choose. Um, so win more than half of the games for sure. Um, but then I think we haven't had any signature wins to this point. So like my hope
Yeah.
would be that we go and compete with some of the big boys, like the ones that are maybe a little bit more of the blue bloods, and like we compete in those games and we pull off some of those games. And I think like if we can do that, then we start to set a trajectory for when our schedule is not the gauntlet that it is for this
Yeah.
year. And then we're building a little bit more into our identity. So I think it's a building year, but hope to see progress and hopefully leaning into even some of the roots that we have with the walk-on program and just like the identity of what made Wisconsin football great, starting with Barry Alvarez and just continuing on through Paul Christ and others.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's a wrap on episode 7 of the Dadger. Huge thanks to Luke Swan for sharing his story from walk on to captain, battling setbacks, embracing fatherhood. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Drop a comment who you think we should see next. We got many great stories coming your way. And thanks again, Luke.